In a war that is rapidly evolving, the battlefield is no longer limited to missiles, drones, or soldiers. It has now expanded into server rooms, data centers, and corporate boardrooms. In a major escalation, Iran has issued a direct warning. Some of the world's largest American technology companies are now in its crosshairs. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Deep Dive brought to you by NewsX. I'm Shivani Singh, and let's get into the intricate details of this story. According to multiple reports, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, has identified at least 18 US-linked companies as potential targets. The list includes global tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, and Intel companies that power everything from smartphones and cloud computing to global communications and defense systems. In some cases, employees associated with these firms have been warned to leave their offices amid fears that physical or cyber attacks could follow. This is not just rhetoric, this is a signal that the nature of the war itself is changing. But why target tech companies? The answer lies in how modern conflicts are actually fought. Today, war is not just about troops on the ground, it's about data, connectivity, and control of information. Tech companies provide the digital infrastructure that modern militaries rely on. Cloud services, artificial intelligence, satellite communications, and data analytics. These systems support everything from target identification to real-time battlefield coordination. From Iran's perspective, these companies are not just private business, they are extensions of American strategic power. From Iran's perspective, these companies are not just passive technology providers, they are active enablers of modern warfare. Cloud platforms can store and process military data in real time. Artificial intelligence can be used for target identification and also surveillance. Satellite and communication tools can support troop movement and strike coordination. Even commercial software can be repurposed for defense use, from mapping systems to data analytics. This is why Iran views these firms not as neutral entities, but as part of a broader war ecosystem. And this war has already entered the digital domain. Cyber attacks linked to Iran have increased significantly, targeting companies, infrastructure, and even private individuals. These attacks range from hacking and data theft to disruption of critical services. In many cases, the goal is not just damage, but disruption, confusion, and fear. The digital front is now just as active as physical one. What makes this moment even more significant is that the threat is no longer purely cyber. These technology companies have a real physical presence across the world, including in the Middle East. They operate data centers, regional offices, and infrastructure hubs in countries like the UAE, Israel, and other Gulf nations. This puts them within strike range of missiles, drones, and other forms of direct attack. In other words, the same companies that run the digital world are now exposed on the physical battlefield. This marks a fundamental shift in the nature of global conflict. For decades, private companies were seen as collateral damage in war, affected but not targeted. Today, that line is disappearing. Corporations, specifically technology firms, are being treated as strategic assets and in some cases as legitimate targets. This has massive implications for the global economy. If a major tech company were to be hit, whether through a cyber attack or a physical strike, the impact would be felt far beyond the region. Cloud systems could go down, financial networks could be disrupted, airlines, shipping, banking, and communication systems could all be affected. In today's interconnected world, a strike on data center in one country can have a cascading effect across continents. Now, the risk is not just technical, it is also economic. Markets react sharply to uncertainty. The threat to major technology firms has already raised concerns among investors, insurers, and governments. Companies now have to factor in war risk, not just in terms of geopolitics, but in terms of their own operations and employee safety. Boardrooms are now discussing the possibility of missile strikes, evacuation plans, and cyber defense alongside profits and growth. The United States has responded by saying that it is prepared to defend its interests and companies. Security has been heightened and cyber defenses are being reinforced. But the challenge is complex. How do you protect a global network of companies that operate across dozens of countries? How do you defend against both invisible cyber threats and physical attacks? What is clear is this: the war has entered a new phase, a phase where data is a weapon, networks are battlefields, and corporations are on the front lines. This is not just a conflict between countries, it's a conflict that involves systems, infrastructure, and the very technologies that power our daily lives. And as this war deepens, one thing is certain: this is no longer a war of missiles and men. It is a war of machines, of markets and microchips. And in this new kind of war, even the world's most powerful companies are not safe. Joining us on the broadcast to discuss this further is Professor Rohan Gunratna, who's a foreign affairs expert. I thank you, sir, for taking out your time. Professor, obviously we're looking at a topic that seems to be interconnected to the war in West Asia and its implications. Iran has warned several tech giants that you are now legitimate targets for missile strikes or even cyber attacks. I just listed out a host of problems that could arise for the world at large if this is supposed to happen, sir. I want to understand from your perspective, do you believe that such a thing is possible going forward? Do you believe that the war has entered this new phase of digital warfare?
Ivani, you are very correct. In fact, you described very accurately based on research. So let me very quickly share with you that there are 5 domains of warfare. There is land, sea, air, cyber, and space. The next domain, the 6th domain of warfare is what you just described, that is technology. So today, other than protecting the land, sea, aviation, cyber, and space domains, governments must protect their AI and tech companies. So look at the targets that the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has listed, and they are threatening from this today, that is on the 1st of April from 8 p.m. onwards, if there are any more assassinations of Iranian leaders, that IRGC will strike these companies starting in the Gulf, but will also strike them elsewhere, including on US soil. So there are 18 companies that have been listed: Cisco, HP, Intel, Oracle, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta, IBM, Dell, Palantir, NVIDIA, JP Morgan, Tesla, General Electric, Spire Solutions, G42, and Boeing. It's very difficult to protect these entities because they are global. Every country has representation from these officers. But this is a new phase of war because to conduct operations, militaries rely on technology.
Absolutely, sir. So obviously, when we are looking at an overview of this entire situation, sir, do you also believe that we need to prep up, we need to be prepared for what's next in the war?
Certainly. I discussed with a colleague of mine in the United States about 2 weeks ago because there was a renewed threat to Palantir. Palantir is the world's #1 company providing assistance to law enforcement, military, and intelligence services. Not only the United States, globally, it's a commercial company. And the terrorists and the extremists were calling for attacks against Palantir executives, even in their homes, not only their officers. And of course, now we are seeing that Iran, which is a hostile state, and its main administrative, military, security and intelligence arm operates like a terrorist group, and they have been designated by the US and by European countries as a terrorist entity. Now IRGC is explicitly saying that they are going to target their officers and their leaders and their staff. So I
Right.
believe that there must be a layer of protection against those companies that have been listed, because it is the responsibility of the state and wherever they work for
Right.
governments to ensure they are protected.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor, for taking out your time and bringing your perspective to this issue. We appreciate it.